Mike Gill and Crash
Hi,
once
Mike.
again.
How are you?
She always asks with a trick question. That's how we start.
Maybe I don't want.
uh,
I might not want to know. Right.
right.
After that thing, not the banging. What was that Friday night? I'm a little worried.
Well, where? How
The
about
banging
this?
on the door.
You ready?
You
This is
had
what I
that.
keep. That's what I keep next to the door.
Okay.
Yeah. What scared the shit out of me was after whatever that was moved, I was soaking wet, and I remember going, "How the hell had this happen?"
Yeah.
And I've got gout, and I've been struggling with gout for like a month. And it's the night sweats that are dehydrating me. That's giving me, I guess, gout. So I'm dealing with that. So how
Right.
about this? Not only do I have no peace, it turns out when I do get to sleep, it ain't like I'm resting.
Right.
But you know what? This is our time. This is why I did this all this time and carried it here. And what I want to share with you today, we're going to call this I'm going to share my insurance policy with you. A kill switch. I'm being pressed for it, probed for it. So we're going to let you know it exists, you, the people. So I want to be, we're going to take you back to the importance of Arizona. I'm going to turn around and go through the thinking and what happened because I understand it so much clearer now and the importance of what happened. For instance, President Trump becoming president and all these other pieces having to fall in play, as we've seen with Sununu, as we've seen with Flynn. We have to put all these pieces together to make sense. In that room, in that meeting, they thought I was representing Trump. You heard the truth you were never, ever supposed to hear. And Bush and Harris were confessing, I mean, to questions I didn't even ask.
Right. I was gonna say you didn't even ask any questions. They offered the information.
Oh, they threw Flynn in the Arizona audit, the CIA, and 98% how they control the podcasters. So, before we take you back there and how that forms into a life insurance policy, I want you to see what's going on right now. Because all of what I warned in those 19 years, what did I say? They were stealing your money. I said, this is the biggest industry, is the money laundering network of those trillions that they stole from you. What you're seeing in the market. Now, remember, I ran the largest volume mortgage company in the United States. Fannie Mae came to me with guidance on market and strategy and movement. I am telling you, we were in a perfect storm. What happened last week with all the moving up and down? And even President Trump with the tariffs back and forth. Again, it's a misrepresentation of what's going on. It's bad trade deals with partners that have been robbing and stealing from us for generations. And that includes and incriminates the Senate and the Congress. So if you don't audit them, again, it's pure, utter bullshit. You're broke, folks. That's the big secret. That's what Elon Musk came in and said, if I don't make cuts, we're going bankruptcy. How close do you want to get? Elon Musk took his company, jeopardized it all to help with those cuts. But again, he's not telling you because it's the theft. Now, now, last week, someone who's been in the mortgage for over 35 years, you had the consumer price index come in low. You had the producer price index come in low. You had the Fed saying they were going to cut. You got the president saying they're going to cut. Right? You have the flight to quality that you're going to cut. So, in other words, that should be the 10-year bonds. Instead of looking at 7% mortgage rates, you should be 5%. I'm the guy who set the rates. You should be moving at 5%. That 5% would be saving people's homes. What might put a floor on a fallen knife with the real estate market. Why didn't it happen? They're pushing it to happen. The moons are aligned when it happened. Because the bond market don't buy it because you're broke. That bond is the ability for you to pay the money back. Those rates didn't go down because the factor of your existence, financial existence, is in question. I am a risk grader. I knew what they were doing. When they were screaming inflation with you, I'm saying is it's risk attacking the currency. Who's under attack? The bonds and your dollar, which is why these predators are pitching Bitcoins and all these
Crypto. Yeah.
XRPs. Right. That's going to be a DOJ and Flynn move. The destruction of the wealth of this country and your wealth of this country is a form of control. Poverty is in a form of control. So, cheers. But my point being is this is what I warned. This is the result. Okay. This is the result of what you're seeing. Now, the answer to this is all that it is that wealth that stole from you. Who are they? Well, think about this. Crash, could you put up that first graph? The whole thing. Okay, now listen. Who is the bond market? Who do you owe this money to? If I remember these, but I can't. Okay, but if you look, right, we got Japan. Wow, China. Wow, I don't know if it's a good idea that we're indebted to China, that they're the landlord. United Kingdom. And my next two favorites, ready? Luxembourg and the Cayman Islands. Well, wait a minute. What do we know about them? So the fourth and fifth largest bondholders to our country that we're indebted for is the Luxembourg and Cayman Islands. Could you hear Luxembourg, Crash? Well, let's see who Luxembourg is. Oh, a money laundering hub for organized crime and drug cartels.
Sorry,
Oh,
wrong one. Hang on. That was the wrong
well,
one.
okay.
Yeah, they're hard to see on my end.
I
There we
it's
go.
harder to see on mine. So you got Luxembourg, right?
It's being used to conceal funds linked to organized crime gangs from around the world.
Oh, there you go. Sounds like Pandora Papers. I think Luxembourg made a drop off there and then hit the other one with Cayman Islands. I think we can have small school children figure out that Cayman Islands is a money laundering hub for the cartels, right? Yet, how is it? There they are. So how is it they're number 4 and 5 in who we owe? People, we're doing business with drug cartels and money laundering. Okay, that's good, Crash. We owe them money. They take their drug money and human trafficking and child trafficking, right? And they turn around and take the profits and they buy bonds, our debt. Now, when you want more money, how much? And you could throw China in there. So number 2, number 4, number 5, and who we owe are our enemies and wish us harm. Am I missing something? You want to know how this, and you want to know they don't want to tell you you're indebted to these people and going broke? This is what you do. You seize their assets. This is why you can't. You're being blackmailed. That's what's going on in Washington. That's what's
Right.
happening here now.
That's
So
the name of the game.
So I wanted to tell you what you're seeing and what I was trying to do is all related. What you're seeing in the market is a culmination of him picking you dry. And after Biden, they didn't leave much on the table. Trump didn't want to take the hit, but he's not pointing the fingers at the DOJ. And you know something? They're not going after Flynn, which was the CIA. Me and Trump talk. We have a theory. We'll sit on that for a little bit. But
You
we're
and Trump,
being
you and Trump talked.
what?
You said me and Trump talked.
Oh, I meant Crash.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I just want to
yeah,
make sure. I'm like, you said that.
yeah.
I don't
No,
want
no,
people. I
no,
don't know. I mean, you might have talked to Trump. I don't know
no, no.
that.
But in this case, it was to you.
Okay.
But so
This
we're
time,
thinking there may be a pivot here. So in other words, I together we found a element in like having them in check just to say they could have a sacrifice of sorts. So we're still looking at the sacrifice, but let's see if it keeps forming. We'll keep you up to date. So we're watching. So, okay. So again, let's get you to Arizona. And I want to explain to you the importance of what that was and why it's a life insurance policy for me. Because whatever policy I had was going to be cashed when I hit in Arizona. And Crash lived a lot of this with me, so she'll fill in and so forth. I might even miss the name or something, but I want to have you understand to that point how this built. Because as I relive it, and I relive what happened in that meeting, and that's why Michelle Moore has all those podcasts down. Remember,
Yeah.
right after we had the brokered convention meeting, I
Yeah.
had 335,000 views on a podcast. We were saying, hey, we're already blowing up. Right. We just walked into a meeting and a potential tape, which seems to be going around, of that could turn around and expose the DOJ to the insurrection plan using Flynn with the audit, could use the CIA in corrupting the podcasters, could show the plan of a brokered convention that Sununu and Haley may be connected to, and then an immediate assassination attempt on the president and a threat to murder me.
And Flynn corrupting the Arizona audit.
Right.
Yeah.
So how's that? All we're saying is you have to investigate. We demand it. All of it. All the players, all the surroundings. You get the tape, we play it for the people. You need to hear what this was. And it was, you want divine intervention? I'll give you that. No one knew, including Michelle Moore. So to start, it was Matthew Tuckeroni with this Mickey Klein and so forth. And then it was John Thaler, the lawyer in Arizona that was working with Liz Harris. Then I started talking with her. So they formed this, we're against the cartel. Matthew was connected with Elvire and through this Mickey Klein, but also, again, in the same realm as Elvire. That's what we're saying. Meet him at party. It was all Flynn. They were all Flynn. Flynn had a problem. Problem was that the DOJ turned around and said, listen, there's one thing out there that may screw this into it, putting this plan into action on December 18, 2020, from the Oval Office. That was Powell and that was Flynn. And they said, you've got to intercept Gill from giving Trump this evidence. Do you know where I was 6 weeks prior to that? In the front of the Department of Justice, and there's a video on it from October. I went just before the election and tried to push their hand, embarrassed even in front of their doors to get that evidence and emailing the evidence. So they knew who I was. They knew that Lullen gave them the evidence already. So they knew I had Lullen's evidence. They had the Pandora's box. They were afraid that I'd find a way to get it to Trump physically. That's why they sent Flynn. They said, before you pull this trigger, you put him in check. That was the Flynn team. That was my next 3 weeks. But it also included Grandel, who was the CEO of Planet Fitness. That's important in this because it was connected to the Anagos cartel and it's Planet Fitness. And later on, you're going to see the connection with Ariel and Michelle Moore. But it was
And
all.
I'm sorry, Mike Grundahl. It's Mike Grundahl, and he was not anymore, but he was the CEO of Planet Fitness. When was that? Like what?
He created it. Him
He
and his brother
okay.
created it.
Okay.
I think it was in 80. But how about this? You know who? It was in Dover, New Hampshire, home of Bill Shaheen. No coincidence. So my point being was, in going to Arizona, they set me up with these people, which were all an extension of Flynn. Do you remember how Elvire wanted to make a movie? Again, it was get me into a place where I could be murdered. What better place to send me Arizona and Tuckeroni and his misfits turn around and have a parade when I'm getting off the plane, telling the cartel I'm there.
Right.
So immediately it didn't feel right. But none of them knew of the thought of the brokered convention, because that was a thought of my mind by, again, seeing the plans of Sununu. I knew him. I ran against Sununu. We came from the same hometown. I knew that smug sucker was planning to be the VP behind. He was bringing Haley to the party.
Before you
Don't.
go, I'm sorry. It's hard to cut in with you. I don't like to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Before you go any further, just some dates. She had Matthew, or she had Alvear on after the J6 thing, but then Matthew and Alvear had been seen together on shows with Mickey Klon is the Sovereign Movement, for and so
Right.
Matt was in that, and so was Alvear. But Matthew came on the show May 3rd. Okay, Thaler. Now you mentioned his name, but people don't know who Thaler is. Now that's the lawyer for Liz Harris. It was Liz Harris's lawyer, right?
Correct.
Okay, he was on Michelle's show in May 23rd. Now, right after that is when you and Liz had talked, and you decided to go out to Arizona right after that. So that's the timing. I just wanted to put that together with the timing of Matthew and Thaler. And they had all contacted Michelle. Everything kind of revolves around Michelle in a way at this point.
In a very big way.
In a big way.
Exactly correct. She became the hub of that. Once I caught Elvire, I gave it to Michelle, which is why Michelle started blocking. We had that situation with Elvire, and later on then with Ariel. So it was part of this network that I was interfering with. But it was a network that Elvire was setting me up.
Right.
And I'm certain of Arizona with Matthew was setting me up to be murdered. And what would they have said? See, here's the problem with Flynn. That Flynn also has him asking on December 18th for my settlement. That would have been the Pandora's box, the laundering network. You would have also got the cartel with Gundal. So in other words, those things and then what happened was Mike Gundal contacts Flynn. And then all of a sudden they start working together, and through Michelle, which is why Dee knew about Juan going to lunch with Mike Grundell. Michelle told them. Michelle was been talking to Mike and saying that I was going to get him killed by telling everybody. Listen,
and you warned Michelle.
I warned Michelle.
He's kind of a key player here. He was your key witness.
Listen, this is a front man. There's no good guys here. There's dangerous guys. In fact, part of the partnership in murdering me is Flynn and Grundall. That was some of the money. Grundell himself saying, hey, I'm going to get 700 million.
800 million.
800. They take out the cartel. This one that Anagos that I told you of. He moves back as, instead of the front man, as the CEO of Planet Fitness. And then you also have the control of Flynn. Now, so Grundell gets off the hook with me saying, hey, front man. Flynn turns around and goes, hey, listen, you're a witness to these text messages between Mike Gill and the Flynn team and all this now I'm going to take care of you too. So Gill gets murdered in Arizona. And what do we have? Matthew going, hey, Sinaloa cartel, Liz Harris taking pictures of me, Sinaloa cartel, right? Bullshit. So in other words, they were putting a sign on me. And see what happens? I'm gone. Flynn goes, and then Ariel's out there going, hey, it's the deeds, and here are the names. Wait a minute, they blocked it. Before they even buried me, they were turning around and telling you, here's the deeds, here's the Arizona politicians. When I called them out on it, he took it down. And you know who was calling out Planet Fitness? It was Ariel.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote chapter and verse up and down. Wow. So they were leveraging, pointing to the cartel, leveraging and blackmail the replacement. All I had to be is dead. And here's this. You want divine intervention? So on the plane, and I'm thinking about Sununu, I go, how can you become the president? You know what I mean? The broker convention. Now, how would you run that? And there it is. There was Harris. The minute I hit her with that, she gave up Shelby Bush in a New York second. And she's going, well, this is how you would do it. These are the people doing it. I go, put it together. It was in play. They were the people playing it. They thought Trump sent me. Now, you should have sent me. And you should have saved our ass thereafter, but not then. But they did. So when I'm walking into this meeting, we sit down. First of all, bikers. How do you think they distribute these drugs by the bikers? That's part of this. That's part of what you would hear in this. You don't think drugs are a major part of this country? You're number 4 and 5 of money laundering countries. Number 2, you're saying you're getting it from the fentanyl from it. I mean, doesn't that exclude them? Well, it doesn't in that room either. A blackmail and money laundering, that's what it was. So what happened was when I sit with Shelby Bush in this meeting, everybody gets investigated, everything. And there is multiple recordings. They have it. The license, my insurance policy is they don't know if I have it. And if I have it and there's a kill switch out there, you get it. The DOJ gets their plan. Flynn gets exposed. Trump gets questioned. Why the fuck didn't you do something about it? And
Right.
particularly Flynn. Right.
Yeah.
Why are you kissing Sununu in the ass when it was his plan with these monsters on the brokered convention? They tried to assassinate you. They threatened to murder. We have all that evidence. The 5 911 calls, that's all evidence. Hey, 300 something thousand people saw it. So why? That's why. That's the insurance policy. But you've got to know it exists. There's much of a confession on all of it. Right down, and that's what they were doing. I didn't ask them about the CIA. I didn't ask them about the audit in Arizona. I was there for the brokered convention and how it was going to happen. They had the names of the people in place.
And they came out and told you willingly. Now,
willingly, I didn't know to ask the question.
Right.
It was a confession. I mean, this wasn't the Gestapo. This was, what are you? I mean, what? And then we're talking about Stacey Burke and evidence and running out of money and hiding evidence. I mean, now, see, that's what I'm saying. In hindsight, I really didn't know Stacey Burke. This Scott McMahon, when he denied about the cartel, if he knew I was going to get stuffed by that cartel, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's saying is, oh, they were planning it. Well, he didn't say it to me. So we're planning it. Well, how's this? I was in the planning meeting. You should be the one screaming to the high heavens, but they don't want the tape. You can't blackmail Flynn and the government. If you have the tape, see, there's what we are. It was always about not giving you the evidence. So that thing in Arizona, and again, President Trump, wait a minute. If that brokered convention went through, you may not be president.
Right.
It may not have taken a shot at you.
And when you say Scott McMahon, remember on the night of election, what ties him, what makes it questionable with him is a known Fed contacted you and wanted you to work with McMahon all of a sudden.
It could have been containment. Think about this. You 100%. Thank you for bringing that up. Exactly. For the moment, and I mean on the minute that Trump lost. Won. I'm sorry, won.
Well, yeah.
That known Fed wanted me to work with McMahon. If McMahon doesn't want it out either. So it may be a controlled thing about still not getting it out.
Right.
See, he's not putting it out. He's not saying getting it out, but they're leveraging with that.
Yeah.
So again, if he has me in this with the meeting, one, he would find out if I had a tape, which would be my kill switch. So if it's all the same to all the rest of you, I ain't trusting him with shit.
Right.
All I'm telling you is there's a situation. And we have to understand how important it is. Again, this is exposing what they stole from you and their partnership with dark predators in the industry that's buying up our country. That's why the Ukraine and Israel, how much is Israel behind Alex Jones and James O'Keefe?
100%.
Think about this. Who are these secret videotaping people that are blackmailers? That's who they all were. That's how you control Congress and greed. So no, that's why we have to go out with those audits right here and now. We have to attach their assets. And Trump has to answer, because if Trump doesn't, I'll make this prediction as I predict this market, as I predict this pain that's coming forwards. I mean, it's going to be bad. So you haven't even hit the effects of any of this yet. You've had good numbers. Wait till the bad numbers start coming. See, once the bond market establishes a bottom, then the only bet is up. Then the only question is how up. And if you get caught in that, then you're in a fast moving situation, a bad situation, which is why we have a timeline to go after this money. Pandora Papers told you almost $1 trillion went to New Hampshire. They told you it went from Luxembourg, Cayman Islands, told you it went to the Ukraine. I mean, where is the world turned up? But here, and we're included, and you're broke. You can't grab around all these corrupt lawyers controlled our courts. You see how the DOJ, that's what they were, corrupt lawyers, corrupt law firms that became politicians. They were able, by controlling the courts, they controlled justice. That's why the head of the snake has always been the DOJ. It's always been the courtroom. It's how they almost took us out here. It was one of the last lines of defense. And think about this. Jack Smith let Trump go. That's the DOJ. That's the courts. Is there a deal in the courts not to tell us we're broke? Is the DOJ saying you can't tell the American people we guarded and protected all this as they went broke, as you pay the tariffs, as you lose your job and your home? We don't deserve to know the truth. This has been the truth for these 19 years. All these years, all these days and months that it forwarded. It's not that we've been offline. It's not that these things didn't happen. They did. All of them did. But now they're coming home to roost. Now, see, you know what they did? They camouflaged it by you hating each other. They camouflaged it by printing a lot of money.
Right.
Hyperinflation. They fooled you. You know what I'm saying? And listen, when you listen to any of them, any of the economy's good. Hey, look at the stock market. We're making a ton of money. But it wasn't, as long as the prices went up and the inflation was a fake out. You say, hey, my house is really worth this. I'm going, you had a reverse yield curve in 2019. Shit's hitting the fan. And I'm looking back going, what kind of game are we playing? Biden printed 60% of the money ever printed in the history of our country in 1 year in 21. How's that for pumping it up? So those interest rates that the Feds kept on low, keeping low, they should have been raising them and offsetting the inflation. And that's why they didn't. You know why? They were afraid of risk rating. They were afraid of what's happening right now.
I was going to say what's happening right now.
Bingo. Because you just might ask the West, well, wait a minute. If we're doing so good, we're doing this, then why are we broke? Where'd the money go? You know, the common sense questions. And then they're trying to tell you waste. Oh, they wasted it, but they stole it. That's what you have. And all you know is where it is. Listen, it's all these assets. Listen, Luxembourg and Cayman Islands. If we find out from the have drug cartels, do we owe drug cartels money, black? Or do we give it to damages of the people and the children that they murdered? I mean, the lines in the sands are getting pretty clear between good and evil. And if we lose this and we fall into where we even lose the confidence in our currencies and hyperinflation, and think of what, and then you've got AI coming into the picture too.
Yeah.
They're going to need less of you, which might start the reason why they tried to kill so many of you, you know. But I tell you, they're good at planning. Everything's happening now. They've had planned. Trump was the variable, which is why I back Trump.
Yeah, and I have some Arizona questions then before you.
Okay, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
You kind of got off track for me. All right. So I remember we talked about two people that have main motives for your information. And Flynn, of course, being the one, and Mike Grandal. And when I said about Mike Grandal being a key witness and kind of a dangerous man for Michelle to be talking to, and you warned Michelle
repeatedly,
that gives me questions to, who Michelle is. She didn't heed your warning, and she kept, I guess, apparently talking to this man. And what made me question a lot of things is you told me that, I didn't know this, but she had told D, we're talking Dorian, D Boomasan, she had told him things that she mentioned Mike Grandal told her. And so they were talking those two were talking about Mike Grandal. I wasn't included in that. So I don't know any of what you have correspondence from D then, as far as what maybe they had been talking
about. Only at the very end.
Right.
At the very end, so, because I'm glad thank you, Crash, because it was Michelle that was orchestrating all this, the movement, the location, 5,000 to go to Arizona. So she was the key person to all of these, the elements of moving here. But she was also wrapped with Grandal at the same time. So the same guy who would want me there, the two people who had motive, Michelle's talking, working for one and talking to the other.
Right.
So in other words, so I was telling her, don't do this. It was dangerous. It was also dangerous for her. I mean, this is dangerous as I'm trying to tell you this is, but she didn't have that. I'm telling you, they were working together. That's why when she told Dee about Juan having lunch with Grandal, I knew the plan. And when I caught Grandal, I could see the change. Those were some of the other players. So when I was in Arizona, she knew that Grandal would have me murdered. He was afraid he was going to get murdered. So in other words, why was she talking to them? And then with the Planet Fitness piece, when I went after Ariel, saying, how did he know? And then it was the Arizona. She turned around and got upset. In fact, it was really first the Crash spoke on an Ariel, and Michelle lost her mind. That was the F from Michelle. So I'm going, Jesus, this is unnatural. I don't believe what's going on here. But now I get it again. Ariel was part of the plan. Ariel was going to say, look what Mike Gill did. All these politicians, Arizona, now I'm dead. And then the Planet Fitness, you know what? So the plan was always part of it in motion. Harris was also Ariel and Flynn. Shelby Bush, and that's maybe why they were saying CIA. It was all one part of the plan. They were all involved. What did Elvire tell me? He was involved in that. And Michelle was the centerpiece of all this and controlled it. But those were the two motives. So one of the ones who had the motive, Michelle, was in the network, and she's talking to the other one. What a coincidence. And you're right. I warned her how dangerous this was. And he would be on top of my list to get smoked, even over Anagos, because the cartel's already in a position. Who would be profiting by my death? The two people who would have the most concern, and that is Flynn. That's the DOJ. Trust me, they're watching. They won't get their hands dirty, but they won't come to help. Right. So when they start questioning about what I think the DOJ or anything can't track me, of course they can. I'm more concerned about the other assholes, and there's a number of those. And that was Arizona, which is why after the meeting, and I'm talking to Michelle, you know what happens? I have the CIA bump into me twice. One in the restaurant, the one from the gym. Yeah. And what is he asking me? About the Holy Spirit and how he wants to take tattoos off of gang members and how he has a friend that owns a horse that he bought for $10 million at an auction. And he had it with Bob Baffert. The same story that I told on Michelle's network. Michelle prepped this asshole, say he likes horses, he does this, all this, to try to set me up and talk. You know what they wanted to know? Was I talking to Trump?
Right.
Was Trump helping me out? That's when you're getting 300,000 a pop. We turned around and took them to a right turn, exposed them. That tape is a confession. They thought they were confessing to Trump. And what did Trump do 2 days later? Say, hey, there was a plan in Arizona. I'll bet you anything. Flynn turned around and called Trump after we uncovered it. And listen, I'm telling you, you listen to the tape and you tell me if we didn't break up that brokered convention. And think about that. If that would have worked, you wouldn't be president. So, in other words, I think we should listen to the tape
Yeah.
before we even give Sununu a smooch.
So that show, after the meeting you had with them, I believe it's still on Odyssey, where Patrick Mockridge has collected,
right.
I believe. So I'm going to see if it is.
I think all those shows that I was showing evidence. Listen, when Matthew was putting nail that to my tape that to my door, the threats to break my legs
Yeah,
and all this,
yeah.
and then
I think
later
he
on,
has all them.
right, police reports and things like that. So you see the evidence. You see me come out of the meeting. You see me what they were supposed to have. Shelby Bush was supposed to have a press release. You
Yeah,
hear me waiting on the cops. I included everyone in the process. That blew up. It's also evidence, and that's why it's important. And I'm sure that's why Patrick also copied it, because he knew this too was
right.
going to be. But see, but I am telling you, she's not going to incriminate herself. But that is all evidence and incrimination of what they were doing.
Well, she incriminated herself when she deleted everything.
She is. Listen, it'll fold like what. I'll tell you what. Remember I said about movement? What has Michelle's shows been?
Yeah,
Documentaries,
documentaries.
or she's giving away cat toys, right? I mean, godly this and selling.
Yeah, the godly
Listen,
grant. Yeah,
it was always fake. All of them were. They wanted Trump to lose. The money was in the losing. Now the money's in the replacement. Crash just thought of something. The money is in the replacement. All right, go ahead.
well, yeah, you said it. That's my next thing. I have notes here.
Okay.
They were prepared for Trump to lose, right?
Yes.
That's what, we
Well, look at
gathered.
he ran through
Okay.
the gauntlet. The
Yeah.
brokered convention, well, the
Right.
courts, the brokered convention, a couple assassinations.
Right. So remember, that was the plan. And remember, okay, like again, they were prepared, they were waiting to see what happened on election night. So you had then the Fed
They didn't wait long, did they?
right. And then, but then what happened like right after that? I stumbled across that hit piece that the investigator put out.
Yeah.
So we have
right. Crash found that, and I remember thinking, I go, wow, someone put a lot of work in this. I think there was AI, it was a lot of work in it.
So she's involved.
But it was Michelle's investigator. Right. It was the kill shot. Hey, listen, if he wound up dead, people crying, not cry this much. He's a bad guy. I mean, listen, this is frightening. Yeah. Frightening. I mean, she's working with Matthew. Matthew's there to kill me. That's the desert. That's the gun all the time, leaving the door open. I'm telling you, that's it. There's certain people who are desperate. And listen, am I out of school? Did he keep on threatening me for days and days and days about how he's going to murder me?
Yeah.
Listen, doesn't take a brave person to pull a trigger. I'd stick 10 of those people up each other's ass. But my point being is, he's the kind of guy that would do such a thing. And there was the plan. The deed wasn't the plan. The thing was Mickey Klein. He's one of them. They were always one of them. That was the solution. What could have been benefited? What could have been achieved? Nothing could be achieved. You'd have been dead and I'd have been dead. Oh, and who profits? Oh, the two assholes that put you there.
Right.
Wow. See?
And the motives behind everything. Okay, like I never thought this way because I don't think like a criminal and I don't think like an interrogator or an investigator. But now that I see Matthew, okay, first of all, Michelle became an outcast because she was teaming up with you.
Which was bullshit.
Okay.
And the thing with PPN leaving,
Matthew.
Bullshit. So Spam's distressed, bullshit.
Right. So they brought then Matthew in, which fit nicely in the puzzle because he became a misfit because he was giving up Mickey Klon. And if people don't know who Mickey Klon was,
and Scott McCabe, right?
And Scott, right? They are a sovereign groove movement trying to get people to quit paying their taxes and quit, and doing the sovereign thing. So he gave up information on her. So it made us trust him. It made us trust. We were trusting Michelle,
Right.
and it made him more trustworthy for you. And
It was
now,
the bait on the hook to get me to
right,
Arizona.
right,
And then the finishing kicker is to bring Harris in, who calls out the drug cartels as politicians, as I did. So
right.
there's the kicker. And they're all tied to Flynn.
Right. And everybody is tied together in this whole thing. And if I didn't live through this, I would be like, this is insane. But it's all, and Matthew, that night, I think that you got in town, you had the argument with Matt McMahon on the phone where, what he said was, just to reiterate that, he said, there is no cartel in Arizona politics. And
This
you're
is
like,
what
are
he said.
you kidding me?
He goes like this. Because I told him I'm here, the cartel. He goes, there is no evidence that the
Of,
cartel controls any
of,
politicians in Arizona. And I remember thinking, I go, what are you? You're joking
yeah,
me, right?
you're joking.
But now I understand. You see how often that those things don't fit, and then later on, when the puzzle becomes closer together, you go, now I get it.
Yeah.
That's how this is all coming together, and it's also how I come to understand why they didn't complete the circle of killing me. See, right after, which is why, and Crash, I lost my phone. Maybe that's
Yeah.
another way of God's will, right?
Yeah.
I lost my phone then, and they all lost their shit. They weren't talking to me, but they were losing their shit because Michelle had given my phone. They had my phone and location the whole time. So when I lost that phone, they're saying we won't have control. But it was leaving then, and I was in a very bad place because we didn't have any way of getting money, and we didn't have any no resources, including getting out. This is being crashed on a Zoom. This is the birth of this. Thank God, because we needed help then. From now on, whatever you people out there trying to help us, it's a matter of duty. If you know what we have is true and this evidence is true, then you have an obligation to move it forwards. I
And
shouldn't
it's
have to
hard,
tell you.
right? It's hard to trust anybody really because how long was that? September last year. And nobody really reached out to help you. And I'm just saying it.
I'm saying we're isolated.
Yeah.
And that we speak, those 335,000, you don't think those were our fans knowing everything was going on? Or do
Right.
you think it was really the enemy? I'd sound
That's
clear.
I was going to say real quick. Remember what you said to me.
Yeah.
When you're talking, just so people know, when you're talking to us or
Yeah.
even texting, or
Yeah.
On Twitter.
Yeah.
Tell them, go ahead. You can finish it.
Okay. You see, there's sometimes what I'm doing is I'm not really talking to you. I'm talking to them. Sometimes I get where it's confusing, and some people say, well, he doesn't explain it. They go, I want you to know they understand fully. So as I'm moving and I'm giving you certain pieces of evidence, even that evidence you may not understand, they know it's been exposed. Somebody would. You'll put it together. And I'll try and I'll put it, but something, I've got to stay ahead of them. I'm moving pieces, and by informing you and what's going on is what they fear. They fear you. So I've got to translate them, and I've got to move ahead. And sometimes it's hard for you to understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing and what I'm saying, but know that I'm playing. I have to be there. Now, I have to also have you understand and bring you here. And that's what Crash tries to help me with, because the fear they have is you putting it together. Wait a minute, Luxembourg, Cayman Islands? Right. I mean, why can't we hear a tape? Was there a brokered convention? Shelby Bush said 100% and confessed to it. And they named the pieces. I didn't ask the Arizona audit. They gave it to me in Flynn.
Right.
Brokered convention, Arizona audit. Hey, you want the CIA? Let's find out what is it, CIA now? Well, here in Rakeland was the CIA.
Yeah, Lakeland.
Right.
But he
And
was
that
on a
maybe the
good mission.
CIA was involved in the J6, and maybe the CIA in podcasting. I don't know. Shelby said 98% that she heard from in Washington, D.C. Maybe that's the case too. Maybe what are they talking about, laying off and getting rid of the CIA? Maybe it's a good idea. But understand, who were they protecting? And this country put these people on attacking you. Elvira, what was I saying? CIA? Oh, he's J6 too. Oh, he was working with Raiklen too, in the same Flynn team. Hey, is that CIA again? Yeah, I'm just saying, you know what? I guess I'll leave you with this. Just remember, there's a reason they can't give you Flynn, but they can give you all the people around him.
Right.
Because Flynn gets you the DOJ. That's why they use buffers. Remember, it was a Godfather movie, although I don't think you've seen The Godfather.
No, I
But
didn't.
but in testimony, they said The Godfather uses buffers. These guys use buffers. That's what they're called. So if you see Juan getting a little upset at Nino, it just might be a performance. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. We'll leave you with that, saying, I'm watching The Little Bastards. And so far, it's on the money. All of it on the money. Okay.
Okay. I'll see you, Mike.
Okay, Crash.